Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from Jenny Card Designs. Thanks for stopping by today. So first up, our first order of business today is to announce the winner of my previous video's giveaway. The winner for this is D Skeen, shown in the comments here. Thank you so much for taking time to comment on my video, and if you can please reach out to me and send me an email at jennycarddesigns@gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to get this stamp set out in the mail to you as soon as possible. If you commented on my video and did not win the giveaway, I'm sorry about that, but don't be discouraged. There'll be plenty of more opportunities if you follow my channel for future giveaways. And let's jump in for today's project. In today's video, we're going to be working with the Memory Misti. This is kind of part 2 to my previous video on how to extend your Misti. So today I'm going to be working with some Gina K Design stamp sets and doing some stamp layering and mass producing of images using all 4 corners of your Memory Misti. Let's get started. I'll try to explain what I'm doing as much as possible. So as I showed you before in my previous video on how to extend your Misti, I've got some foam strips in the corners to create extra working surface. So today we're going to use all 4 surfaces. I'm going to load up my paper, making sure that they're butted up in the corners nice and tight in each section. And I've got all my flowers loaded up, and I've already tested that out. So I'm going to ink them up. Now you just want to keep an eye on your ink pads, because on the bottom I'm using 2 different colors, and on the top I'm using 2 different colors as well. So you just want to make sure that you know which color you're stamping for which section. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up, and you'll see as we go along what I've done here. So I've got the first and the second image for both of these stamps, the outline for the flower and the stipple, and the same for the leaves. So I'll go ahead and stamp them down, and you can see what's happened there. I've got 4 different pieces of paper. Now for the bottom 2, I'm going to swap them. I'm just going to switch places, and then I'm going to do the same for the top. I'll swap those 2 pieces, and then we're going to ink up again and stamp. And you'll see that you have 2 completed flowers and 2 completed leaves on each panel. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 pieces from the bottom and switch places to the 2 pieces on top. So now when we finish our paper rotation, we're going to have a total of 8 leaves and 8 flowers. So we're going to ink up the stamps and start all over again, doing the exact same thing, just keeping an eye on your colors. And when you set them down, I suggest putting them kind of in order so that when you pick them up, you don't stamp the wrong color. That's how I do them. I place them off to the side. It's a little bit hard to show because this Misti is so large, I won't be able to fit everything in frame for you. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll swap the 2 bottom pieces. So here I forgot to swap the top 2. So you'll notice that I'm just going to double stamp them, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and swap them now and re-ink them up and stamp them. But you get the idea. You can sit here and create 100 flowers, only having to turn your Misti so many times. You don't have to keep stamping and opening it and re-inking and stamping. So you just ink all up at once, stamp. So if you do this lots of times, you'll get a big pile of flowers and leaves like I have here. In the end, you'll see what I've got for you, and we're going to turn all of those into cards. So I've got all these lovely colors of Gina K Designs ink. I'll have everything listed in the description below. I'm just going to speed through this really quickly, but so that you can get the idea of the repetitive motion that I do, swapping out the cardstock and changing the inks and wiping up, and I'll play a little bit of music and catch you back on the other side. So I've got a big pile of flowers all stamped up. I'm going to pull everything out of the Misti here, and I'm going to clean up my stamps with my stamp chamois. I'll just wipe them all off, wipe off the door of my Misti, and get everything put back into the packaging. Okay, so we'll just get all of this out of the way here, and I'm going to pull in some ink blending brushes and a craft mat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a lighter shade of my Gina K Designs inks to match each flower. So I'll use the lighter shade. And again, as I mentioned before, I'll have all of the ink colors listed in the description below. I just got one of the small detail brushes from my sets. I have a couple of different random sets of brushes from Amazon. They all work great. I love them all. I'm just going to lightly run over the flower with the light ink, filling in the surface. It's okay if there's some white spots. It'll add to it. But so I just want to fill it all in and not worrying about staying in the lines. It's okay if it goes outside because the dies for this flower leaves a little bit of a white border. So even if it's colored right to the edge, it's great. It's going to look lovely. So I'm going to do this to all of them. And if it looks a little bit dark and splotchy, that's okay because this ink dries to a nice smooth finish. I'll do all of the flowers and then I'll come back in and do all of the leaves. So I'll use my microfiber cloth to clean off my brush. And that does enough, takes off most of the ink, and I can switch to the next color and not have to worry about it. Sometimes I tap off my brush just in case there's too much ink on it, because some colors are darker than others, and some ink pads are a little bit more juicy than others. Next, we're going to work on getting the flowers cut out. I have a Gemini Junior die cutting machine, and I have a little trick that I use for die cutting multiple of the same image. Now, because we use the Misti to stamp all of these flowers, they'll all be lined up in the same spot on the paper. So what we're going to do is get the dies all lined up. Now I tape them into this little web, and it's like creating a little template. So I get the first image, I tape that down to my Gemini Junior cutting plate, and I get all the dies lined up all the way around both flowers and the leaves and get them all taped down just using some washi tape, making sure that I'm going to be able to see through the the cutting edge so that I can make sure that they line up. You'll see what I mean. So what I'm going to do is run it through the Gemini for the very first time, and I'll cut everything out, and I'll pull those cut out flowers and leaves off, and I'll set them off to the side, and I'm going to take the next piece of paper and lift up my little hinge that I've created and slide the piece of paper in, and I'll just check to make sure it's all lined up. I'll slip a small piece of washi tape onto the bottom card so that it doesn't slide around, making sure everything's lined up, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine again. Now, what we're doing is we've created a template with a little web of dies all taped up, and then we can just keep lifting up the little hinge and sliding the paper in over and over again, and we won't have to reposition them every time. So it saves a ton of time, and you can get a pile of die cuts cut out in just a few minutes. So I'll run through all of these, get them all cut out, and then we're going to turn them into some cards. Okay, so I'm going to pull all of these die cut flowers into some cards. I'm using the Gina K Designs Scripty sayings for my sentiment. I've also got a T-square ruler and an acrylic block, and I'll also be using VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp my sentiments. So I've got a bunch of card bases here. These are heavyweight card bases that I've already cut and scored, and I'll just grab my flowers and figure out how I want to lay the placement. Now, I'm going to be making 8 cards with the pile of die cuts that I have. I'll make 2 of each sentiment from this greeting set from Gina K Designs. It's got 4 sentiments. They say So very thankful for you. With love and prayers, happy birthday to you, and with sympathy. So I'll make 2 of each of those, and I'm gonna line up everything. I'll get everything glued down. I've decided to pop up a few flowers with foam tape. Now I'm not making all of the cards identical. I'm rotating the flowers around, making them a little bit different, but the only thing that's the same is the layout and the amount of flowers that I put on each card. So there'll be 1 of each color on every card. And I'm figuring out my placement for my sentiment. So I'm using Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue down my flowers and leaves, and I've got some foam squares that I'll use to pop up my other flowers. Now what I'll do is I'll use my T-square ruler to line up against the side of my card to ensure that my greeting is set up nice and straight, so when I pick it up with my acrylic block, it's not crooked. And I'll also use the lines on my glass media mat to help make sure that my card base is straight, and I'll go ahead and stamp the sentiment with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and that's it for this card. And I'll continue doing that for the rest of the cards, just switching up the placement on the flowers so they're not all identical, and switching up the sentiments so that we get, as I mentioned before, 2 of each sentiment design. So that's all I'm doing for these cards, just the flowers, the leaves, and the sentiment, and then we're going to call it done. Just simple, colorful, and very elegant. So here's a look at the finished projects for today. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that I've given you some inspiration for your Gina K products, as well as some extra use out of your memory Misti. I'll link to the previous video if you haven't seen that in regards to extending your Misti, so I'll put that in the description below, along with any of the products that I've used here today. They'll be in the description, and please note that any of my links are not affiliate. I do not benefit monetarily in any way from any of the links that I share below. It's purely just me sharing information with you. I have not been asked to showcase any of the products here today. I've purchased all of these with my own money, and I share them with you because I love them. So I hope that you've enjoyed the video today, and don't forget to hit that like button if you have, to let YouTube know that I'm doing my job right. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. All of my social media links are in the description below as well if you'd like to connect on Facebook, Instagram, my blog. I'd appreciate all of the support, and thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.